or Middle Eastern sweets is clarifying our butter. And I started off with 4 sticks of unsalted butter, and I'm just slowly melting them in our sauce pot that we have over here. And then what it's going to happen is it's going to start to sort of boil a little bit. And then once it starts to boil, we're going to lower our heat, and then we're just going to let it sort of slowly simmer, sort of slowly boil away. And all of the milk solids and the salt that's in the unsalted butter is going to sort of dissipate and start to dissolve and kind of stick to the bottom of the pot. And then what we're left with is this beautiful sort of, I call it liquid gold, clarified butter. And then we're going to be using that clarified butter to make all of our sweets today, which we're making one of my favorite sweets called Belloria. It's a shredded dough dessert. It's the shredded phyllo dough that sort of resembles angel hair pasta in a way, actually. And then the other sweet that we're making is called bird's nest. And we're using the flat phyllo dough, number 4, actually. So it's pretty thin. So let's get started on our shredded phyllo dough, shall we? So I have it right here before me. And the first thing that you want to do is you just sort of want to tear it apart a little bit, but gently. And what I've done before I started sort of shredding it before you is that I took it out from my refrigerator and just let it sit on the countertop for a little bit, maybe about 15, 20 minutes, 30 minutes max, just to sort of come to room temperature. Okay, so I have our water right over here that's been boiling away, and I have a strainer that's sitting right atop. I'm going to take half of the amount of the shredded phyllo dough, and at this point you just need to tear it just a little bit so you can get 2 sections. Okay, we're just going to put this right in the steamer and just kind of, again, break it apart a little bit with your fingers, and we're just going to steam it just for a little bit, just for a couple of minutes actually, just so it can become a little bit moist for us. And then we're going to put it on our sheet pan and do our second batch. All right, so now we're going to get it onto our board, and we're going to just sort of spread it all apart with our fingers, just like that. You can see it's very easy now for me to work through it. It's very pliable, which is a good sign. And we're going to take some of that beautiful liquid gold, that clarified butter, and we're just going to sort of spoon it right over the shredded phyllo dough. And now I'm just going to sort of toss it together. Just like that. Beautiful, right? It feels so good. It's nice and moist. It's soft. It's pliable. And that's definitely what you are looking for when you're making the shredded phyllo dough desserts. This one or any of them, actually. And that little touch of the clarified butter really helps. And it makes it delicious, too. Okay. So now this looks good to go. We are going to just set it aside momentarily. The first ingredient up for our Belloria filling is our pistachio nuts. And they're beautiful, plush, big pistachio nuts. They are unsalted and they're whole. So that's definitely what you want to use. So we are going to use 2 cups of pistachio nuts. And I also have our beautiful, nice walnuts. They are also whole. They're raw, they're unsalted. Just going to get 1 cup of these. So we have 2 cups of the pistachio to 1 cup of the walnut filling. And I also need some granulated white sugar. We're going to use 1 cup. And we're just going to grind them until they're sort of like a coarse meal. We don't want them to be ground too fine, and we don't want them to be ground too coarse. So sort of like right in the middle. Okay, that looks good. Let's take a look to make sure that we have the right consistency and texture, and that actually looks perfect. Now we are going to get it into our mixing bowl. See that? We still have sort of like little kind of bits and pieces of the pistachio nuts, which you definitely want when you're making a delicious pistachio nut filling. And we are going to finish this filling with a little bit of our liquid gold, aka clarified butter. And of course, it's all about stopping to smell the roses and eating the roses. Not exactly, eating them actually, but the essence of roses with our rose water. In Arabic, we call it mawedit. And it's distilled from rose petals. And it's just an amazing, amazing flavor that we cook with. and bake with in all of our sweets. So I'm just going to measure about 1 tablespoon of this also, just like that. Using our spatula, we're just sort of going to mix this together. So we don't want the mixture to be dry and we don't want it to be too wet. We kind of want it right in the middle, and we want it to have lots of flavor, and we're getting that flavor from the sugar, from the clarified butter, and from the rose water. So look how beautiful that looks. See that? You can see that it's not too dry and it's not overly wet. It's just nice and moist. Okay. My brother Eddie and I kid. He actually calls it like orange blossom pop and rose water pop because of the, clear sort of like, soda bottles that they come in. But you can easily find these, I should say, in actually major supermarkets now, in addition to Middle Eastern and Mediterranean specialty stores. What we're going to do now is we're going to take a pastry brush and we're just going to dip it in and coat the bottom of the pan. Okay, we're going to take half the amount of the shredded phyllo dough, just like that, kind of eyeball it as close as you can. And using your fingers again, just sort of spread the phyllo dough evenly out on the bottom of the pan, just like so. And then using the palms of your hands, you want to sort of like firmly press down on the shredded phyllo dough all around. So you can see that it's pretty much stuck together at this point. And it's nice and flattened. And this is a key step in making the sweet. Okay, now we're going to grab our pistachio nut filling. You take all of it and just pour it right on top of that layer. And then using the back of your spatula, just sort of evenly spread the pistachio and walnut mixture so that it covers all of the shredded phyllo dough on the bottom, and it goes right up to the edges too. Now, using the palms of your hands again, press down on that filling. And you're pressing it down to flatten it, number one. And you're also pressing it down so that it can really kind of get right into that shredded phyllo dough that's on the bottom. Now for our second half and final half of shredded phyllo dough. Okay, so now again, using the palms of my hands, I'm just pressing down firmly on that top layer of the phyllo dough so that it can come together with the filling in the center. Okay, now I'm going to take the clarified butter. I just want to drizzle a little bit more, about another tablespoon or so, right over the entire top. All right, so my tip and trick. So we're going to take a piece of parchment paper and press it down into our Bellaria sweet. And then I have an identical pan that I'm going to put on top of the parchment paper into that Bellaria sweet so that it can become bound together. So I'm just going to get it in the refrigerator and we're going to let it set for a couple of hours. And we're going to get them into our preheated oven. It's at 350 degrees and they're going to bake for about 12-15 minutes tops. And don't forget, we have our Bellaria, our shredded phyllo dough sweet that we made first. It's sitting in our refrigerator and it's setting, it's being weighed down so it can be bound together, and we're going to also get that into the oven as well. Our bird's nests are blissfully baking away, and they are going to need a delicious syrup to top them. So we are going to start off with making our rose water syrup, our Moet syrup, and we're starting off with basically a simple syrup base. Okay, so we are going to take 3 cups of our white granulated sugar, and the best part about the syrup is that you can infuse it with either the rose water, which we're doing today, or the orange blossom water, the mazaheb, that we do with other Lebanese sweets. Okay, now we're going to grab our water. So we have 3 cups of sugar, and we're going to do 1.5 cup of cold water. And then one more ingredient, which is our lemons, and we're just going to squeeze the juice of half a lemon. So it should sort of yield about 1 tablespoon or so, depending upon how juicy the lemons are. And the reason why we are adding the lemon juice is so that the syrup doesn't crystallize. It's going to minimize the possibility of that. And now we're just going to turn our heat onto high. And we're going to give this a nice stir just to incorporate and try to dissolve the sugar with the water. Just like that. Okay. And then once the mixture starts to boil, we're going to lower our heat and we're going to let it simmer away until it becomes nice and thick. And then once the syrup is nice and thickened, we're going to finish it again with our rose water, which is distilled from rose petals. And it's our rose water sweets that I was inspired by visiting some of the beautiful rose gardens near me. It ended up beautifully, and now it's ready for the star ingredient, which is going to make it rose water syrup, our mawurid. We're just going to pour in about 2 teaspoons, just like that. Stir it. So simple, right? Simple syrup into rose water syrup. And that is all. And now you can see that I have our baked up beautifully, our shredded phyllo dough dessert with that delicious pistachio and walnut filling. And now we are going to spoon our rose water syrup all over it while it's nice and hot. That is also the key when making our sweets, is that you want to take the hot syrup to the hot sweet right at once. So that way it can really soak in all of that delicious syrup. Now for the best part of all, we are going to taste our delicious rose water sweets. I'm just going to cut this into little squares. I think I'm going to grab myself a nice crunchy corner piece. Look at that. Beautiful. I cannot wait to taste it. Just going to show you guys how it looks, just like that. I'm also going to grab myself one of our beautiful bird's nests too. Just going to sort of cut right into it. See how beautiful that shredded phyllo dough is, and the pistachios. Of course, our rose water syrup. Nothing like the taste of fresh rose water and the flavor of it and the fragrance of it, and it tastes just absolutely delicious with our shredded phyllo dough and our pistachio nut filling.